Hello, everyone, and welcome to the International Youth Conference 2021. International Youth Conference 2021 is the third edition of this conference, the entire series of International Youth Conference. The theme of International Youth Conference 2021 is New Normal, New Beginning. Why we have selected this theme? It is because we came to an understanding that this is the new normal and this is the new beginning. There is absolutely no going back. There is absolutely no going back to the previous thing, like the post-COVID world. We believe that post-COVID world is a new world, and there is no going back. There is nothing going to be normal like it used to be in the pre-COVID world. The COVID have devastated the entire world. 2.5 million people have died. Millions of people who were not even affected by the virus lost their jobs. COVID had not just affected people with the health and with the debt, but with the finances also, with the employment situation, with the mental health, and with a lot of things. Development got paused in many countries around the world. To coping up this situation, young people came together and we formed this platform. We decided to form this platform of International Youth Conference during the 68th United Nations Civil Society Conference as a result of the youth outcome document that was the Youth Climate Compact. And we initially wanted to implement the Youth Climate Compact, but we caught up in the COVID, and we think that there was the emergency to coping up or discussing the post-COVID world. So during this conference, we are going to do the same. Through this platform, we had engaged young people from marginalized or underdeveloped region. There are many people watching this conference from different part of the world. We got 3,400 registrations as I am speaking. We got 3,400 registrations 5 minutes ago from 110 countries, and numbers are likely to grow today also. So to discuss furthermore and talk to you, I would like to invite Mr. Maher Nasser, who is the director of the Outreach Division of the United Nations Department of Global Communication. Maher, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ali, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening. With 3,400 participants joining the virtual conference, I'm sure that many of you are in regions where the time zone is already evening or afternoon. So good evening, good afternoon, and good morning. Thank you for joining and supporting the International Youth Conference 2021, the New Normal, New Beginnings, that is organized by the Department of Global Communications Civil Society Unit, that is in my division, in partnership with UN Habitat, Generation Next Network, and with the support of GLOCO and the Vanguard Service Brigade Corp. I think it is very impressive to see that within a few weeks, more than 3,000 young people joined and participated in a virtual conference, which, if you talk about the new normal has given us opportunities that without the intensive need to use virtual convening, we wouldn't have been able to have such a conference, and we would have always relied on the actual convening, the normal way that we used to convene and we used to organize conferences. This month, I completed 10 years in the department, during which we organized more than half a dozen conferences in different parts of the world. Last year, we were in Salt Lake City, 2 years ago, actually, now it's 2019. Before that, we had it in New York, we had it in multiple places. And one of the positive developments in our UNGO Civil Society Conference was that the inclusion of a segment for youth, the creation of the Youth Steering Committee and the youth part of the conference, which became one of the most active elements of it. And this is outgrowth of that cooperation and that part of it. So I'd like to special thanks Ali Mustafa from Generation Next Network and the youth representatives steering committee for working with my colleagues in the civil society unit in creating this conference and creating this opportunity for us to continue engaging. Of course, in the conference, the topic new normal and the old world. I mean, there are many things that I think when we talk about new normal and the new beginnings, we have to be careful not to throw the good with the bad. I mean, there are certain things that we know, we have grown up with, we have lived with, that we need to not only hold on to, but actually fight more to ensure that they are achieved and fulfilled. I mean, you just to give you a few examples. So some of the principles on which the United Nations was created 75 years ago, we need to hold on to and to hold those in power accountable to what they themselves said they would abide with. The principles of human rights, universality of human rights, the principles of justice and rule of law, the principle of the peaceful resolution of conflict, the principle of equity. And I think equity, when we talk about gender equity, equity no matter where you come from, these are key principles that have actually managed to enable us to be where we are today, in a place that might be locked down because of the COVID vaccine, but we have seen a lot of progress happen in during this period, such as the creation of a vaccine in less than 1 year. That was unprecedented. And that wasn't a fluke. That was a result of cooperation. That's a result of putting the resources where they need to be. The world recognized that to get over this pandemic that, as Ali said, has crippled economies, has kept children out of school, has kept us away from our work offices, but at the same time, it created a surge in solidarity, in a surge in support for the frontline workers. And I think these are the kinds of things that and the principles that we really need to keep and hold on to. Another key principle that started maybe in the 80s, which is the concept of sustainability. And I think this is a crucial one. When we talk about sustainability, we are living in a crisis now caused by a virus, but at the same time, we are also living through a crisis that we created, the climate change crisis, the environmental degradation crisis, the crisis of the loss of biodiversity that is a byproduct of climate change and our extensive use of nature and its resources without due regard to sustainability. So these are the concepts that I think we and you, as young people who are more invested in the future, that you need to hold on to and fight for. There are things in the old world, they will be with us for a while, but we need to double down on really trying to ensure that we take them out from the future. Social and racial inequality that have been exposed bare by the pandemic, that have shown how they could lead to conflict. They could also lead to higher and the victimization of parts of the society that have no access to the proper protection, the proper tools that they need to protect themselves from this pandemic or from the social and economic implications of what it has done. Gender equality and gender inequality. We have also seen that women have borne a much larger share and burden of this virus. They were the first, many of them, in places to lose their jobs, being locked in at home because of lockdown with sometimes an abuser was a cause for concern. And I think it's something that we have to really ensure we fight for gender and equality and fight all kinds of violence against women and young girls. Injustice around the world, and I think we see it even now with the vaccine, that we have countries that have actually bought the rights to multiple times the number of vaccines they need for their population, and many parts of the world have no access to the vaccines at all. The Director General of WHO a few weeks ago spoke about the fact that tens of millions of people have been vaccinated in developed countries. And in some countries, the number of people who have been vaccinated was 25. And I think that is something that we have to be careful about. We have to fight and ensure that vaccine equity, it's a people's vaccine. If one part of the world remains unprotected, the whole world is unprotected. What we have seen today with the vaccine, with the virus, there are mutations, there are new variants of the virus, and they keep popping up. Unless everybody's vaccinated, unless the pandemic is over, there could be a new variant that would be resistant to the vaccine, and that is a big danger. So you can't really put a wall and protect yourself from such a pandemic. So I have spoken a little bit about the virus, but I want to, just before I give the floor to the next video that I think you really need to hear from, I want to speak about the virus of misinformation and disinformation. That has accompanied the virus. I know misinformation, disinformation has been with us since the dawn of history. Since humans started to communicate, there was always miscommunications, sometimes disinformation and misinformation. With this pandemic, we have seen stories of miracle cures that eventually ended up killing people. We have seen people doubting the validity of the fact that there is a virus, that there is a pandemic, that there is a COVID-19. People using it to say, no, vaccines will not work. Anti-vaxxers tapping into the hesitation and concerns about vaccines, creating fictitious stories about microchips and gene changes. I think at the core of it, we have to really rely on science. Science and facts is what enabled me to speak to you across continents using this technology. And that is the same science that was put in place to develop a vaccine in a record time. And I think the misinformation, disinformation is something that we all need to be aware of. Always verify what you see. We see information on our phone screens, on our computer screens, and before we know it, we are sharing it without verifying it. So last year, in March, April, we as the Department of Global Communications launched a campaign called Verified to ensure that we make available to anybody around the world information that is verifiable, that is based on fact, that is based on science, that is based on advice from the World Health Organization, the specialized agency within the UN system that has all the expertise to really give and verified information on that. I invite you to go to shareverified.com and register as an information volunteer. You will be receiving regular updates about the virus, about information, about how to protect yourself, about the value of the masks, about how to make sure behavioral change is something that this is the first time we engage in an information campaign that aims at behavior change, and that behavior change is about how we share information. Take a minute whenever you see something new, whether it's about the virus, whether it's about the vaccine, whether it's about climate change, whether it's about the politics in your country. Think about it. Who sent this? Is it verified? Do I trust this source? Before I share it, can I make sure that it is accurate? Take care before you share is a concept that we launched in June. We reached 1 billion people with that campaign. In September, October, we launched the second part of it called A Pledge to Pause, which was, again, based on science, based on how people share information. We share first, and then we try to see it, and then, oh my God, what did I do? So I just wanted to use this opportunity to highlight this new campaign of ours, invite all participants to become information volunteers. And now I think I will end here, and I give the floor to my colleague, my friend, the youth envoy, Jayathma Wickramanayake, who has recorded a message for you, and I introduce her video now. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ali, and I wish you all the best.
Colleagues, friends, greetings from New York. My name is Jayathma Wickramanayake, and I am the United Nations Secretary General's Envoy on Youth. Thank you for the invitation to join you today for this important event. As you might know, a core part of my mandate is to bring the United Nations closer to young people and young people closer to the United Nations. The greatest tool I have to do this is Youth 2030, the UN's first ever system wide strategy on youth. Since the strategy was launched in 2018, I've had the pleasure of working very closely with other UN agencies, funds, programs, our UN country teams, and young people themselves in bringing this strategy to life. Our common vision is a world in which the human rights of every young person are realized, a world that ensures every young person is empowered to achieve their full potential, and a world that recognizes young people's agency, resilience, and their positive contributions as agents of change. The aim of Youth 2030 is to scale up global, regional, and national actions to meet young people's needs, realize their rights, and tap into their possibilities as agents of change. This strategy is ambitious. It is guiding the UN system in stepping up support for the empowerment of young people while ensuring that the UN's work fully benefits from their insights and ideas. We have seen some progress on these fronts over the recent years, but we still have a long way to go to ensuring better youth participation and representation across the board. Through this strategy, we have an opportunity to meaningfully integrate youth into the realization of the 2030 agenda, weaving them not just as beneficiaries, but as key actors who are playing a critical role in contributing to a more sustainable future. Young people are always stepping up to the challenge. I have seen this in my work in conflict affected areas, in humanitarian settings, and in the most vulnerable communities around the world where young people are taking leadership in finding solutions. From protesting on the streets for climate action to acting as first responders and volunteering during the COVID 19 pandemic, young people have repeatedly shown that they're not only the most resilient, but also are the most resourceful in times of crisis. As many of you are likely aware, despite some important progress, overall action to meet the Sustainable Development Goals is not yet advancing at the speed or scale required. That is why last year marked the start of an ambitious decade of action to deliver the SDGs by 2030. The COVID 19 pandemic and its impact on all 17 SDGs has shown that what began as a health crisis has quickly become a human and socioeconomic crisis, threatening to undo important sustainable development progress. Yet, despite being disproportionately affected by COVID 19, young people have demonstrated extraordinary courage, leadership, solidarity, and innovation in their desire to build a more sustainable, peaceful, and just world for current and future generations. Today, the world is home to the largest generation of youth in history. With more than half of the world's population under the age of 30, they represent the greatest opportunity we have for accelerating development and achieving the SDGs in the decade of action. To achieve the SDGs, we must engage a generation of young people who know about the goals, who care about the goals, and who actively work towards their realization. The world already has the knowledge and the resources and the tools to achieve the goals. Young people have the energy, the ingenuity, and ambition to make them a reality. With less than 10 years left to achieve the SDGs, I'm calling on all policymakers everywhere to urgently make greater investments in youth, from education to healthcare to training and creating decent jobs. Building the capacities of young people and ensuring they have the opportunities to achieve their full potential will be critical to delivering the 2030 agenda. There is no better investment a country can make than in the capacities and potential of its young people. At the same time, I encourage young people around the world to continue to actively engage in these issues and hold their governments accountable. From its inception, the UN was envisioned to unite stakeholders everywhere to tackle the world's greatest challenges. As we look to recover better from COVID 19, now more than ever, we need all stakeholders to join efforts in steering our world into a more equitable, inclusive, and sustainable path. Today's young people recognize this perhaps more than any other generation in history. So let's give them an opportunity to lead. I look forward to continuing to work hand in hand with all of you to ensure that the UN is ready and able to deliver together with and for young people everywhere. Achieving the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030 depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the Honorable Envoy, Youth Envoy for the United Nations Secretary General. With that is said, we have heard quite motivated words and words of wisdom from Mr. Maher Nasser and the Youth Envoy. Yes, indeed, sharing the information before, without verification can lead to a disaster. We have seen that. We have seen the disaster of the misinformation. We have seen the disaster of misinformation recently, and we have seen the world's most powerful leaders being banned from the social media just for spreading misinformation. So, misinformation is as dangerous as any weapon of mass destruction. We, in the content of the International Youth Conference 2021, we are going to discuss about the actions more and less of the words. We're going to discuss about the action on the climate change. We are going to discuss on the gender equality. We are going to discuss on technology, and you're going to hear from the people who are the young professional working at the United Nations. I'm going to hear from my colleagues who are the member of the Youth Representative Steering Committee later today on how to get engaged with the UN's youth agenda, that is Agenda 2030. Let me have this honor to introduce the next speaker, Ms. Quratulain Tejani, who is a co-founder of the International Youth Conference. Ms. Quratulain Tejani, the floor is yours.
Hello. Um, Today, I am thankful to technology for bringing over 3,000 young people from all parts of the world, from countries that are run by dictators, monarchs, and governments. But you've all come together at this platform for one purpose. Uh, Thankfully, Maher and Ali have shed some light on the widened inequalities that this pandemic has brought with itself in terms of the vaccine distribution and in terms of all walks of life. The pandemic has also slowed progress on the achievement of the SDGs, but it is really heartwarming to see how many young people are interested in taking charge of the world, in rebuilding a world in the aftermath of this pandemic. um, an entire year has almost gone by. We really wished we could meet in person with all of this energy, all of this passion coming from you young people. And a year has gone by without human touch, without hugs, without handshakes. But we are all here trying to synergize our efforts towards rebuilding a world that is more equitable, that has more to offer to people. Um, this conference, this installment of the conference was very important for us because the new year, it brings hope for people all over the world, and we wanted these conversations to be held so that the year can start right, with the right energy, so that it ends right as well, and it would have a trickle down effect in the years to come. So to all you young people who have joined us from all different parts of the world, I really wish and I hope that you would join us in the sessions that are coming on, and also for the opportunities that we've put together for you even after the conference, so that we can achieve what we are trying to achieve. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Quratulain, for the encouraging word. One of the most interesting thing about our conference is the high presence in the leadership team of the women, and Quratulain is one of them leading the young women and the conference. Uh, Speaking of young women, let me introduce you to Shurabe Mercedo, who is the co-chair, the planning co-chair of the International Youth Conference 2021. Last year, she was just a participant of the International Youth Conference 2020. Now she's spearheading the planning and making sure the voices of young people is included in the content and everywhere in the conference. Shurabi, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ali. I'm without words, really and truly. Hi, everyone. My name is Shurabe Mercado, and I'm only a Mexican 18 years old that is studying currently engineering and biotechnology, and that it is with you, with all the youth that it is listening to me right now, an agent of change, a social activist, and advocate representing the voice of youth and change in many occasions and in many events, many summits, etc., etc. So I'm here today really excited and honored to be speaking to you all as a co-chair of such as a unique and breathtaking event as the International Youth Conference. I firstly want to thank all the incredible leadership team for their efforts, naming Sheila, Isaria, Pravin, Delton, Ali, Virgi, Asad, and all of our great ambassadors, of course. Today, we are reuniting not in person but virtually. And when we may think that this is more difficult, when this is a little bit more confusing, when this is just different, however, because of the circumstances, people of all over the world are together in this single space right now, uniting to be prepared and to be the ones to solve the biggest global issues. So let's connect with each other and well tell us from where are you connecting from and what are you most excited for? It's really amazing to see everyone committing and everyone connecting with each other. So I'm going to talk about today. Today, our world is facing innumerable problems. Humanity is constantly facing new threats and trying to solve things that still continue even if they are 100 years old. We need to understand that today there is a person going out to parties risking lives of others. There is a person violating and harassing women and gender diverse people. There is a person violating others' human rights people right now. There is a person throwing trash in the streets with a trash can 1 meter away from it. Let's think about that for a moment. As important as these realities are, we need to also know and believe that a person today is also fighting for their daughters to live and to not be abused or violated because of their gender. A person today is fighting with their lives for the lives of others in hospitals. A person today is fighting for the irreversible damage that humanity has caused to the environment. There is a person today fighting for the human rights, not for him or herself, but for everyone. For everyone that cannot fight for themselves and do not have a voice for now. So, you are here today. We are here today to decide what person we are going to become today. What person we were not yesterday, not the person that we're going to be tomorrow, but the person that we are going to be today. Because it was too late to act yesterday. It was too late to act tomorrow. But the time to act will always be today. And by stating this, I congratulate every single one of you. Because by attending today to the panels, to the conferences, to our amazing speakers of such matters of importance, you are deciding to start doing something. You are starting to decide to be the true change that the world needs now. So take the speaker's speeches very seriously, reflect on everything that you hear, plan on what you will do tomorrow and today with the knowledge that you will acquire today in the conference. Learn and keep on learning as we never will stop on learning, even when you are 100 years old. And well, stumble, but always get up. Start and do not stop. We can't wait really anymore because if not us, who is going to act? Take advantage of today, of tomorrow, and tomorrow add the few list, fellow our future change makers and advocates, as I expect significant and extraordinary things from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Shurabe. I would like to thank everyone who joined us for the opening ceremony, and a special thanks to Mr. Maher Nasser and the and Ms. Jayathma, the Youth Envoy for the Secretary General of the United Nations. The next session is going as live is now live. That is on the climate action and how to turn your ideas into action. So as Shurabi says, let's get into action. Let's attend the conversation. Let's be part of the conversation and plan our actions. See you during in different parts of the conference. Meanwhile, goodbye from me and from all the speakers. Thank you for once again for joining the International Youth Conference 2021.